Let's now shift our attention over to Myanmar. In a big development from Myanmar, the military has taken control of the country for 1 year. Myanmar's leader Aung San Suu Kyi and other senior figures from the ruling party were detained in a series of raids. Denying impeding transition, Myanmar's military has rebuked foreign embassies as well. The country's former General Min Aung has been appointed as the acting president by the country's military. A local TV station broadcast images of Min Aung holding a meeting after the military staged a coup. The army has put out a statement on the state of emergency and handover of the governance and jurisdiction to the commander-in-chief. It says that the state of emergency is effective nationwide for 1 year because huge discrepancies in the voter lists for November 8 polls were discovered. The Union Election Commission failed to settle this matter, and the military believes that the problem must be resolved according to the law. Emergency has been declared in accordance with Article 417 of the 2008 Constitution. According to ruling party National League for Democracy spokesman Suu Kyi, President Win Myint and other leaders had been taken away. A regional member of the parliament in Myanmar was seen on live video footage being taken away by the soldiers. Papa Han, a regional MP of Pantwang Township in PA, was seen being escorted out of her house by military personnel. Her husband, also an MP, was seen asking why they were being detained, Papa Han, and whether they had a warrant. Phone lines to Naypyidaw, the capital, were not reachable in the early hours of Monday. The raids have taken place on the day the parliament in the capital was due to start sitting after a November election that the NLD had won in a landslide. Even as tensions escalate between the civilian government and the powerful military, members of the parliament took up their seats. Soldiers were deployed outside the city hall in Myanmar's main city of Yangon. The witness said that a dozen soldiers were in front of the building that houses the city administration, while several military trucks surrounded the hall. Just hours after Suu Kyi was detained, Myanmar's state media MRTV has reported having technical issues disabling broadcast. Myanmar's radio and television said on a post on its Facebook page, and I quote, "Due to current communication difficulties, we'd like to respectfully inform you that the regular programs of MRTV and Myanmar radio cannot be broadcast." Let's quickly get in a sense of perspective as far as everything that's concerned is happening in Myanmar. For that, I'm joined in by Mr. Constantino Xavier, who's a fellow in foreign policy and security studies and is an expert on Indian foreign policy. Thank you, Constantino, for joining our broadcast today. Now, what do you make of the timing of this military coup, since this week the first session of the parliament was to take place since the election took place, which would have also indirectly enshrined the election result by approving the next government?
Thank you, Akansha. I think there's a longer explanation, that is, the military was concerned about losing power to the civilians, in particular to Aung Suu Kyi, who was the state councillor. That is one reason that explains the rising concern of the army, and that now sort of took action. There's a more immediate concern, maybe a more immediate reason, that the military may have been concerned by the new administration in the US under President Biden, that will take a stronger position on democracy, human rights, and that therefore the sooner the better for the military to get things done at this point.
Right, and since you mentioned the US role that could be taking place now with Joe Biden taking over, how do you see the international reactions and the condemnations that have followed after this coup? What sort of a role is now expected out of the international community?
So it's interesting because the reactions will tell you how these countries look at Myanmar. Of course, there's been a silence, if not a suggestive friendly welcome from China towards the new military in Myanmar. The Chinese have always been more comfortable with the Myanmar armed forces. On the opposite extreme, you have the United States that has come out with a very strong statement saying that this is unacceptable, that there's an expectation that there will be a soon release of all the detainees. And then in the middle ground, you have India, which actually came out with a very strong statement, also concerned about the democracy in Myanmar and appealing to the release of the detained individuals. And then a mishmash in Southeast Asia. Right. You've had Thai government, for example, coming out in support, other countries sitting on the fence.
Right, Constantino, my last question to you, since I'm running short of time. Considering 70% of voters had defied the COVID-19 pandemic to go and vote, and they did so in overwhelming numbers for Aung San Suu Kyi, do you see public anger now building up over this coup? What do you expect in Myanmar now?
No, not really. I think there's a wait-and-watch attitude in the streets. People are concerned, but there were also a lot of problems happening in the country under democracy. So most probably the military will stay in command and control. It has announced a roadmap and possible elections. But this is certainly the end, and therefore some bad news also for India of 10 years of democracy in the neighborhood that was supported by India and engaged at various levels, the diplomatic, economic, military and security level from India. So let's see how India will deal with this new dilemma in its immediate neighborhood.
Right, we'll have to wait and watch. For now, thank you so much, Constantino, for joining our broadcast and sharing your precious perspective. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.